5:35 on this Wednesday afternoon. Wednesday, March 20, 2024. This is the Nationwide Cover Story. My name is George Davis.
And I'm Chevon Campbell.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Sir Davis.
Good to be here.
Now people can stop acting as if you were no longer present.
I am present indeed, my friend, very much so. Well, let's get right into it because a full-blown political row, that political row is raging between supporters of the governing JLP and the opposition PNP and the officers of both parties. The row erupted Tuesday afternoon when the opposition leader Mark Golding attacked the impartiality of Speaker of the House of Representatives, Juliet Holness, based on the fact that she is the wife of the Prime Minister. This is what Mr. Golding said.
When the former Speaker was forced to resign as a result of an Integrity Commission investigation, the move to replace her with the wife of the Prime Minister, so that the head of Parliament is now the spouse of the head of government, really does not sit well with the tradition that the Speaker must act independently of the government of the day. The Speaker is intended to be independent and must act independently of the government of the day. That is the tradition. That is the tradition.
That is Opposition Leader Mark Golding. He was speaking in Parliament on Tuesday. Well, a visibly angry Prime Minister led the government members in a walkout following Golding's comments. This led to the abrupt end of the Opposition Leader's budget presentation because of a lack of a quorum in the 63-member House of Representatives. However, despite the adjournment, the opposition leader took to the streets just outside Gordon House to continue his presentation. He completed his objection to Mrs. Holness sitting as Speaker of the House of Representatives.
The point I made when they walked out was this. When the former Speaker was forced to resign as a result of an Integrity Commission investigation, the move to replace her with the wife of the Prime Minister, so that the head of Parliament is now the spouse of the head of government, does not sit well with the tradition that the Speaker must act independently of the government of the day. That is a fundamental principle of the Westminster system of democracy. And it is protected in a number of ways. For example, in the United Kingdom, nobody runs against a Speaker in an election.
That's Mark Golding, the opposition leader. Joining us for a discussion are the veteran journalist and host of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast, Franklin McKnight, CEO of Our Today, Al Edwards, and Professor, Culture, Gender and Society at the University of the West Indies, Mona Donna Hope. Good afternoon, lady. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Franklin McKnight, you've seen, if not everything, almost everything in this country's history over the past several decades. We have something in front of us that amounts to unprecedented circumstance, if I may put it as inelegantly as that. And the question I asked myself as I prepared for this interview is, how do we even cover a situation where a government walks out of the chamber during a budget debate?
Well, it's an unprecedented. Yesterday when I saw it, because I joined the broadcast late, and it happened shortly after I saw it, I could hardly believe it. And then I called a colleague of mine who has been doing a lot of house coverage over the years, and he had not seen anything like that with the government side walking out. And I thought that it was a big moment, but I also said that the Parliament will survive this, George. I know that the Parliament will survive. But it was an emotional moment, and it was a big moment.
Al Edwards, you were there on Tuesday evening asking questions of the opposition leader and his parliamentary colleagues at the West Kings House Road location of the office of the leader of the opposition. And the temperature as you tested it was what?
I thought it was very bitter. The nature of it was very rancorous. I honestly think it's unfortunate in the sense that will this precedent lead to something whereby we see either the opposition or the government walk out debates that affect the country. Now, can we expect the opposition to walk out on Thursday in a tit for tat? We live now in this Trumpian era where people are prone to do crazy things. And you can see it across all walks of life now. And one of the things we want in Jamaica is conflict resolution. We're trying to live in a way that perhaps makes us a better society, and our leaders have to lead the line on this. It was most unfortunate. Now, you could look at this as it was just probably the Prime Minister felt peak, and it was just a one-off, and we move on, as Franklin said. And I think, yes, it won't, it shouldn't really affect parliamentary discourse. But is this going to lead to something that we've never seen before in Jamaica? And people are looking on, and we want to bring in a new generation of parliamentarians. We want to have fine examples. Already, a lot of people are not interested in politics, as we're saying in the voter turnout. And is this another example of exactly why people are turning away and why people are not interested in the development of the nation and a way for Jamaica to move forward?
Donna Hope, at the center of this is the role that Mrs. Holness plays as Speaker of the House of Representatives, and yes, she is the Prime Minister's wife. Do you think Mr. Golding's pointing or highlighting the fact of that secondary issue that she is the Prime Minister's wife is of any relevance to her role as a sitting member of the House of Representatives?
It does raise issues of governance. I was immediately you're very much aware of the issue in the United States with this Fannie Willis and her lover of Georgia, and what happened there. And the judge said, well, look, the thing about this is the oath of mendacity, and Wade has to step down. So, he may have a point there, but we would have overlooked this. I think we would have thought to ourselves, oh, isn't this cute? The Prime Minister, his wife, they're two bright young people, they're of their time. Very great. But what I think occurred here was that the Integrity Commission issues have not been resolved. The 6 members who were supposed to, the 6 members, the member situation, that hasn't been resolved as well, and that remains murky. And it's just brought it to light. If she had dealt with that expeditiously and forthrightly, I don't think we'd be where we are today. I think that's really what brought it to the fore.
But Al, let's not mix our metaphors here. The fact of the matter is the issue of the illicit 6 has not been brought before the Parliament, save and except for the mention made in the annual report of the Integrity Commission published last year. Beyond that, there has been not one sentence issued on the illicit 6 in Parliament subsequently. So the impression must not be given that there has been something that has been said on that Mrs. Holness has not handled in the appropriate manner.
No, you're correct. But what I'm saying basically is if it was brought out and she was to bring it out, we wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't look at it and say, oh, okay, there's a conflict of interest. She's not independent. She strikes me as being a very capable parliamentarian. She does. But it's what's bringing this to the fore. Why are we asking these questions at this particular time?
The issue is, Professor Hope, the issue is, here we have a woman who was not appointed, She was elected by the whole House by acclamation. They all said aye when the vote was put. Why are we now, several months later, scores of parliamentary sittings later, now at this point where her role is a problem because she's the Prime Minister's wife?
Because we are in election campaign mode, and that I think is one of the things that is the elephant in the room. We are in general election campaign mode. It's very clear and obvious. And the fact that she was elected in that position unopposed, there were no signs of dissent in the Parliament when that occurred, suggests to those of us looking on that at this point, and in a budget debate presentation when this matter is now raised, that it is really raised because we are in general election campaign mode and for no other reason. That is how it comes across. Because if it had been such a major issue, it would have come up when she was nominated for the post. It would have come up when the people were supposed to vote aye or no, and it would have come up along in one of those parliamentary proceedings coming up to what is very important, the business of the nation being tabled in the budget debate.
Discussing this matter of the walkout of the government members during Tuesday's sitting of the House of Representatives, where Mark Golding was making his budget presentation, and he made a comment questioning the independence of House Speaker Juliet Holness due to her relation with Prime Minister Andrew Holness, which triggered that walkout. We have with us the veteran journalist and host of the Frankly Speaking podcast, Franklin McKnight, CEO of OUR Today, Al Edwards, and Professor of Culture, Gender and Society at the University of the West Indies, UWI, Donna Hope. Franklin, I'm wondering, because had it been anybody else sitting in the chair, because remember, the speaker is not above criticism, and if there are concerns in terms of her independence or her handling of the matters of parliament, that is fine. But had it been someone else sitting in the chair, say the brother of the Prime Minister or somebody else with close relation to the Prime Minister, would be having the same discussion? Or is it just the matter that Mr. Holness is highlighting, Mr. Golding is highlighting, that she is the wife of the Prime Minister?
Well, that's a great question, but the first thing that I want to say is that I do accept that most men that I know would not want to sit there listening to anything that might be sounding negative about his wife, his spouse, or his mother, for example, in Jamaica. And that's why I started by saying the whole thing is emotional. Because if there was another speaker that, you see, there are too many ifs in it, but with another speaker with a different type of relationship, it wouldn't really be the same thing. What the opposition is arguing there is that they want to see a sort of independence. They wanted somebody who must act independently, or that is the tradition. So I don't know how the Prime Minister would react if it were another speaker, another person that was being spoken of. But I understand the emotion of sitting there. We could all see, those of us who were watching it on TV, could see how he reacted. And that's how most men that I know would react if something was being said that was negative about his wife, his spouse, or his mother.
But certainly, Al Edwards, that criticism that Mr. Golding leveled could have been leveled without bringing up the matter of her spousal relationship with the Prime Minister, couldn't it?
Possibly, but we are in a very feverish political season, as the lady pointed out earlier. And I think that's really what it is. It's the cut and fuss of politics. People looking to advantage points, and they're looking to make headway. I honestly do think that if a lot of these issues were tackled earlier, we wouldn't be where we are today. But what we have to ensure is that this doesn't become a pattern. If we can put it down to a fit of pique, as Franklin said, he was emotional. We all have been emotional at times. We can forgive, forget, move on. But what we have to guard against is this kind of, indecorous political jockeying, and we see the whole nation sees it. We can't have this. Thursday will come, tomorrow will come, will they walk out of Parliament? Then next year we have the same situation because it happened this year. That's what we want to avoid. I mean, we can split hairs as to this or that, but really what we want to see is, we really want to see good behavior from our leaders. We want to be led by the right kind of people. We want to set examples. We do have a problem with conflict resolution, but we cannot be manifested right in front of our eyes on TV screens. Children are watching it. People are watching it. We've got to ensure that doesn't happen. I think that's really the salient point here. We can put it down to a fit of pique. We can put it down. We've all been there. We all have. But how do we move on from here? Where do we go from here?
Professor
how can
Hope,
we prevent this from happening again?
Professor Hope, walk with me here.
Yes.
I'm wondering if the issue.
It was rather bilious.
I'm wondering if the whole mirage about independence and impartiality of speaker is not also at the root of this problem. Because the way we practice Westminster here in Jamaica is it's a loose adoption of what Westminster is in the home of Westminster in the UK. Yeah?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so this thing about speaker must be impartial. The speaker in Jamaica cannot be impartial because, whereas, well, let me say this first before I put the question to you. In the UK, take the speaker now, Lindsay Hoyle. He is a Labour Party MP who was voted in to be the Speaker of a House dominated by the Conservatives when Boris Johnson won in 2019. That's one thing. Second thing, as a speaker in the UK, you resign from your political party. So unlike here, where you can be speaker on Tuesday, and Tuesday evening you go on a standing committee meeting at Belmont Road, or you go on an NEC meeting at PNP headquarters on Sunday, it can't happen in the UK. So the system has a strict separation and divorce between the person who occupies the speaker's chair and the party on whose ticket they entered the parliament. So there is everything to suggest that this person is impartial because that's how the system allows the person to function. And as Mr. Golding mentioned correctly, in the UK, the major parties do not run a rival against the speaker in their seat if they're looking for re-election as an MP. So it is a system that facilitates impartiality in the UK. It doesn't happen here in Jamaica. So when you come and you attack an arrangement and say, oh, you can't be satisfied that there's impartiality there, it smacks of hypocrisy, I would suggest to you, Professor Hope.
But remember, and as you're rightly saying, that what the Westminster Whitehall export model that we have here in Jamaica and some other Caribbean territories practice that is a shade or a shadow of what occurs in the UK. And this is something that our parliamentarians have ratified for decades. The structures that currently exist. I think the real consideration that Mr. Golding tried to put in the minds of the Parliament, but also the onlookers, because remember we are dealing with the optics for people looking on.
And it was an optics game yesterday.
It was
the PNP won.
Right?
Yes.
And you're going ahead of it. So it's all a game of optics in terms of raising a concern that people on the ground had. I heard people call into talk shows and people spoke about it, but had never been an issue for the parliamentarians on different sides of the house because it was just business as usual because this was how the parliament proceeded in our country. Since it was put in place, the speaker comes from, of someone who is already elected, and it continues in that way so that there is a kind of cut across of the kind of responsibility.
But Professor, here's the problem Here's the problem.
And the allegiance.
The problem is,
yes.
Despite us practicing Westminster light here in Jamaica, it's almost like red stripe and red stripe light. Yes. We are holding to the same full brew standards. And that's the ridiculous part, because...
But we are holding to it, and again I say, it's time and place, we are holding to it in time and place mechanism, because we are in, let me say again, we are in general election campaign mode, right out of the local government election, and the People's National Party has felt a breath of fresh air and a rising inflection where their stakes are concerned, and they are pushing against that and pushing upwards. And I think in terms of, I hear the conversation about emotions, but when we are talking about leadership at a certain level and working on behalf of the population, the people of Jamaica, emotions, sometimes we have to swallow them. We have to figure out how to swallow them, because the way that we carry out these duties suggests to the people on the ground how we also expect them to respond and to conduct themselves in their own personal, relationships.
So what I want to get from you, Professor Hope, is this, and panel, the standard of impartiality that we are told that we should get in a speaker in the Jamaican context, it does not exist in the Jamaican context. It cannot exist. Because
is it wrong to possible?
It's not possible. There you go. It's not possible.
Work towards being an independent broker. To being an independent broker, having the speaker as being an independent
But hold on,
broker.
Sir Franklin. Hold on, Sir Franklin. I hear the point, but
That's all that we need some kind of, constitutional reform. Otherwise,
there you go.
It sounds as if we're heading towards a conversation, and we have been talking about constitutional reform for various things we want to go.
Yes.
Many things are on the books and on the front burner.
This should be one of them.
So it's now based on what we are seeing here. It suggests that we should go for constitutional reform so that we do not have a situation where it is kind of bubbling on the back burner and can be raised up to the front burner when it is politically expedient. So to do.
Because here's the thing, as we pointed out, in the UK, we're being held to UK standards, but in the UK, the Speaker resigns from the party that helped them get election to the House of Commons. It's a fact. Then that Speaker also cannot be part of any party committee or party tribunal or any party group. They sit independently. So there are rather several degrees of separation. It does not happen and has never happened in the Jamaican context. So
there's need for constitutional reform. There's need for constitutional reform.
To turn up with a speaker who's an
no, that's not what I'm saying, Sir Franklin. What I'm saying is this.
We want an independent broker.
Even
where that person resigns, they're coming from the background, the policies, the principles of their political party, but they shed that to become an independent broker.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, is not that I'm saying that the way that we've had speakers over time, the speakers have served their purpose well and played their role. We've never had an issue, even though we know that the speaker is a PNP man, a PNP woman, a Labour right man or a Labour right woman. We know the speaker works and they follow the standing orders. But I'm saying now that we have this issue, perhaps as Professor Hope said, we may need to add this on the long list of things that need to be fixed in the constitutional reform process. Is the point I'm making.
But it's not just parliamentary. We need good governance across the board in Jamaica, in every facet. And the line has to be led by our leaders. So we really need to get a lot of the problems we're having are governance problems, right? I mean, in the corporate world, there's certain situations where you can't have a husband and wife situation. And that's clearly documented, more so at board level, right? So it's a governance issue. It really is, and we have to really take a look at that. I think it was the issues, and I think the ladies act very right. We're in general election mode, and I think really that's got ratcheted up, and here we are today.
That's all the time we have, unfortunately. It's a small society problem for people with big aspirations and big dreams. Professor Hope, Franklin McKnight, Al Edwards, thank you very much for your time. We're out of it.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.